I was impressed by you last year inviting and having a selfie with a Bernie Sanders impersonator who crashed
That
your
was
rally.
great.
I was in the crowd. But I could only imagine that Trump would also reach across the aisle and work with people like Bernie, at least having a selfie with his Android phone. And you called for restoring bipartisanship in this hyper-partisan age. But among all the other more difficult impediments to bipartisanship, such as media echo chamber, gerrymandering, and the 2010 Citizens United, there is a relative,
That was a terrible decision, by the way.
there is a relative lower hanging fruit,
Yes.
leadership. So my question is, do you think leadership has become an anachronism in this day and age? And if you were the president, how would you embody this leadership?
You
Okay.
address this in your book.
Yeah, I mean, I think leadership is really important, but so is followship, a term I think that I made up. I don't know. I don't think I read it anywhere else, but it's my idea. And here's what I'm saying. A leader has to show any organization, whether it's the Cubs, the White Sox, the Blackhawks, or whether it's a person running the country or running United Airlines. A leader has to paint a picture of taking that organization to a better place. And if they're successful in showing that vision, then you have followers inside of there, some of whom become leaders unto themselves to other followers to try to complete the mission. Now, and you need disruptors in any organization to try to point out things that sometimes we don't want to hear. Now, if the leader begins to obscure the vision or move that vision out to a place where it's no longer taking us to a better place, then I think the followers have to disagree. So here's the question for you. If you were working at the United counter when that guy wouldn't get off the plane, what would you have done? Now, my wife says, you know, John, it's not so easy because people have mortgages and families, and I get that. But there are ways that all of us can have ourselves be heard in a way that doesn't jeopardize our families. And so followship is something we need to think about. And just because you're a follower doesn't mean you don't matter, because there are leaders who are followers. And so I look at a lot of these organizations. Take Wells Fargo and all these phony accounts. What were they thinking? Now, some people tried to object, but the managers, the leaders who were of the followers didn't assert themselves and stick up, and that organization went way off the rails, and it was terrible. But then you have other places like Johnson & Johnson. You don't remember this, but David does. There was a Tylenol scandal. It would happen in Chicago. And the Tylenol people took all of the Tylenol off of all the shelves all over the world. You know how much they had to write off for their economic reports? And yet they did it. And they emerged a more powerful organization. So it's all things. It's leadership, it's followship, it's disruptors. Figure out where you fit.